Hi, this is William from the Wildwork Initiative, speaking to you today as part of another episode of Wildwork as a Home. I'm in the play area of our home here, and above us you'll see there's a lot of trees, a big old ash. There are ash trees where I live that have been like this, that got cut down by people because they think they're unsafe. Whereas what we done is we came in and we just done some maintenance on these trees to make them safe, but not to cut them all down. And a tree, as you know, is a wildflower as well. Well, you may not know, but here on the ash, if I can get this to zoom in for you now, here on the ash you have actually got the flowers, and in turn we'll have leaves come out, and there's actually an abundance of these this year. But I want to show you some of the wildflowers that grow here naturally that I'm really fond of. We have primroses, which are quite tasty actually to eat. Don't eat too many or you'll have none left. Dog violets. There's more flowers yet to come. What do we have here? Is this what I think it might be? This looks like it could be a strawberry. Then we have bluebells, but these actually aren't a native wildflower. These came from a garden centre, and a lot of the houses around where I live actually have these planted in them, and it's quite unfortunate because on the ditches around where we live there's a lot of native bluebells and these cross-pollinate with each other. So really I should be considering removing these, and I am, to be fair. We'll see what I do. This tree has just gone out of flower, but it's the flowers that drew my attention to it. It's a wild plum, the only one we have on the property. But there are lots of little suckers growing over here, so we could take these and plant some more. And down here in the gravel we have a forget-me-not. But I need to key this out to find out which type it is, whether it's the field forget-me-not or the wooded one. One type is rare, doesn't really grow here as a native, but it could be a garden escapee. This might be the field one, although there's a ditch wall in the garden that a neighbour has up the road, and they have lots of these growing in it, and they look really pretty right now. There's some Mombrecias here, which are not a wild flower in West Cork, but they have thrived in this area and they're quite well known around here. A lot of people might think that they're native. And now over here I'm going to show you some that I've sown in the past in a pot. If you sow wildflower seed in pots, you can end up that you might have very little grow in the pot, or you might get lots of things. And this pot was sown over 2 or 3 years ago. We've clovers growing in it, oxeye daisies, yarrow. These are all about to come into flower now. And red campion. Isn't it beautiful? And these are more red campions. At this time of the year, April, May, there are some areas you can go to that are awash with this flower. One I like a lot is Castle Freak, which is near Rosscarbery. There's a woodland there, and there's lots of these. It's worth a visit sometime when people can go there. Sometimes certain flowers, even though they've been around you all your life, you mightn't really have taken much notice of them. And this one has really caught my attention this year. It wasn't included in a mix of seed that I sowed in this area. I put wildflowers down here, but the red dead nettle is one that popped up. Really liked the conditions I had created. But I've actually noticed it growing in many other parts of roadsides locally. So perhaps it's a good year for this flower. So keep an eye out, see if you've got some red dead nettles at home. Here I am looking at a bank I sowed with wildflower seed just last winter. I was lucky to get a loan of a digger off of my neighbour for a weekend. And all along this bank that you can see extending down the driveway on the left hand side, there used to be a lot of tree stumps from old palm trees like the ones in the distance. So the way I managed this hillside was I used to just trim it once a year and manage it as a dry grassland type of habitat, which you can see some remnants of it there, and along the bottom just over here. But I always wanted to maybe do something a bit better with it, turn it into a more diverse habitat flora wise. So with the digger we took out the tree stumps, which will make the habitat a lot easier to manage. I put them up in the woodland, the young woodland that we are growing. Some are also used in the fire pit around it for seating. And I prepped the soil, as I said, last winter around November time, and sowed it with a mix of wildflower seed. Some of the grass is coming back itself, but we have some nice wildflowers growing in here, some of which were in the seed mix already. Sticky backs, commonly known. But then we also have some cornflowers. This is the corn cockle coming up. They're perhaps the species that are doing best. This, I'm actually forgetting what it is. I might need to key it out. It might be a cabbage family. It's doing quite well all along here. But a lot of the species that are doing well are low growing. And some things that were pretty that were here already, I just left them in it. Like these are ornamental garden plants. So there used to be quite a bit of bramble in it. Now there isn't, but there is little bits of roots still left in it. So here we have some stones and bits of leftover bramble roots that I've pulled out of the wildflower bank. Quite an easy job to do, and it's just a little bit of routine maintenance. It wasn't too hard. I don't have a gym, so I get my exercise from looking after wildflowers. Trusted pitchfork was all we needed. And anywhere I dug away some roots, I ended up loosening up the soil. So what I did, I sent a few select places, is I had some wildflower seed packets that were left over from education sessions we had done. Ones that were open already had a little bit of seed left in them. So I scattered their remains in the places where I dug out the bramble. And this will help what I'm trying to create here, because, you know, in a fully natural cycle, seed isn't all dropped at once, it's dropped at different times of the year. So I think it could be a good thing to have topped up the seed bank here at this time of the year now, which is April, having originally sowed it in November time. So there you have it. Hope it's going to look really well. Either way, it's going to have good flowers in it for pollinators, so I'm happy.
Hi everyone, Karen here. For this episode I'd like to share with you some of the areas of wildflowers in the garden. This is a little patch I recently cleared out. It was completely overgrown with ornamental bramble. But once that was all pulled out, it was the perfect spot for wildflowers. From the work of just removing the brambles, the soil was pretty much prepared for seed. Nice and lightly raked over, nice fine tilth. And it gets plenty of sunlight throughout the day, so a few weeks ago I sprinkled some wildflower seeds, and they're doing really well. I'm really looking forward to seeing what flowers this year. Whenever a new area like this becomes available in the garden, when something's taken out or something dies back, I do try and claim it first and get some wildflower seeds in. This is an area I sowed last year, quite late, I think June or July. First removing the grass by cutting out the sods by hand. and that is not something I suggest you do for a larger area. It's much shadier area than the first spot, so I did get a seed mix that was more suited to shade. And flowering for the first time this year are these gorgeous red campion popping up all over the place. And they really are a very pretty little flower. Delighted to see them. And adding a fabulous splash of colour is this Marigold Corn. So this once considered a bit of a weed, and now it's quite rare in the wild. Something a bit more common but no less attractive are Ribwort Plantain. It's a mad little flower. And in a corner is a patch of common sorrel. And I can't help but have a little nibble every time I go past. But it hasn't seemed to do too much damage to the plant. Another common wildflower is yarrow, but I've actually never had it in the garden, and I'm thrilled that it's popping up in the wildflower patch. It's one of my favourites. The leaves are gorgeous, the flower is gorgeous, just a lovely plant. Another favourite, foxglove. This is a biannual, so it only flowers in second year of growth, so I'm hoping to have some flowers this year. Good one for shady spots in the garden, and I think you can never have enough foxglove. And as Will said, trees are also wildflowers. This elder found its own way into the garden, but it is very welcome. I love the smell of elderflower, and it just wouldn't be summer without experiencing that smell at least once. It looks like the flowers are on the way. The last area is a corner of the garden that was used to compost down the grass and garden clippings. I reclaimed it a few years ago, but the approach to planting wildflowers has been much more haphazard. All sorts of seed mixes and plants have been added to it. But what really has taken over are the thistles. So these are probably creeping thistles. And this one is a teasel. And what I found is if you add teasel seed to an area, be prepared for it to take over. Last year I was a little disappointed that the area seemed to be absolutely taken over. I thought it was just going to be all thistle. And what I wanted was as much plant diversity as possible. What I was envisioning was an area full of rare, colourful cornfield annuals, the ones that had disappeared from the wider landscape. And so I did spend some time pulling out the thistles to try and give other plants a chance. But as the summer went on, I just kind of gave up on that. And I'm very glad I did. This is a video from late summer last year. The thistles grew to be about 5 foot high, but the area was absolutely full of butterflies. And I've never seen as many butterflies in the garden. Turns out, thistle is one of the top flowers for providing nectars for insects because it produces so many flowers. So, this area is now my thistle patch. If anyone asks, I'm actively growing thistles for their nectar superpowers. The seeds are also a source of food for quite a few species of garden birds, so, what a great plant. And it's a good lesson for me as well. Sometimes you just need to let nature do what it wants to do, and not what I think it should do. And who knows how this area will evolve over the years, but I'm looking forward to watching it. There are, however, a few plants in the area that I will look after and not allow to become overgrown by thistles. This is Hemp Agrimony. I planted it as a young plant, and it comes back every year. It's another good one for nectar, great for bees and butterflies. And you can see why it is called hemp. the leaves do look pretty similar to the cannabis plant. But this is a member of the daisy family. The other plant I'll be protecting is this Meadowsweet. Again, I planted it as a young plant, and it comes back each year. Meadowsweet contains salicylic acid, the chemical used to make aspirin. And if you pick a leaf, crush it and smell it, you will get this wonderful medicinal smell. The flowers, on the hand, are just beautifully sweet, a complete contrast to the leaves, and one of those smells of summer. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Have you put any wildflowers into your garden this year, or are you planning to? We'd love to hear from you. All the best from all of us at Wildwork. Take care.